Hey YouTube, how's it going? So I was sent a message by someone asking me about how to get a firearms license in Canada. So I thought, well, instead of typing out a long email, I'll make a video and we'll talk about it. So to get a firearms license in Canada, it's called a possession and acquisition license. And that license, when you get it, gives you the ability to possess and acquire ammunition and firearms. Now, firearms are in two categories. We have non-restricted and restricted. So non-restricted is rifles and shotguns. Restricted is handguns and short-barreled rifles up to a certain length. So in Canada, we have a lot of laws and a lot of rules and regulations regarding firearms. It's very lengthy. You got to know this stuff when you get into firearms ownership, because ignorance of the law in this country just does not work as a substitute for knowing the law. You can't claim, oh, I didn't know, I wasn't unsure, I forgot. It doesn't work in this country. It'll never pass the test with the RCMP or a judge. So you have to know what you're doing and you have to understand the laws. But to get the license for your non-restricted, you have to go take a course. Now that course deals with, again, non-restricted, so that's rifles and shotguns. And you take the course and you have to take the course is broken down so that you take a written assessment and then you take a practical assessment at the end to prove competency, to prove that you know how to handle firearms and safely, and you understand how they operate so that when you use them, you're not hurting yourself or other people. So then after you do the course and you pass both the written and the practical, you have to send your form away, and the form gets sent to the federal government, to the RCMP's head office in the eastern part of Canada. And they say it can take up to 3 months to get approved or denied. And there's a whole host of things that have to go on through that process. The RCMP is going to do a background check. So that background check is going to include your marital status. Do you have any prior convictions for abuse, domestic assault, those types of fights, that kind of thing, because the RCMP want to know and make sure that the person they're issuing the license to doesn't have a violent history, or doesn't have a history of beating their wives or hurting children or these types of offenses, because they don't want those people owning firearms. And I would venture a guess that the majority of people in this country probably don't either. So there's that. The RCMP is also going to call your spouse or your significant other, because that information is required on the form when you fill it out and send it in. So the RCMP is going to call them and ask them questions about you. How's your temper? Do you have a fascination with guns? How are you around children? That type of thing. And again, a lot of those questions have to do with making sure that the person they're going to issue the license to isn't a threat to those types of individuals, because that's just not safe. We don't want those types of people owning firearms. And the RCMP certainly don't want to give someone the ability to do that shouldn't have access to guns. So that process can take up to 3 months. And if your form is missing information or it isn't filled out correctly, your application will get delayed. And in some cases, you'll get a letter in the mail saying they need more information. Or in some cases, I've heard phone calls being made. They phone you and ask you for the information because they need it. They can't process the application without it. So it's a lengthy process. It isn't. It is not, buying a gun in the States is not like it is, or buying a gun in Canada, is not like it is in the United States. You cannot just walk into any gun store or Cabela's in Canada and put your money on the table and say, I want that gun, and you get to pay for it and walk out the door. It does not work like that in Canada. To get your restricted license in Canada, which deals with handguns and short-barreled rifles, is there's some similarities between non-restricted course and the restricted course, obviously just being the type of firearms. But the paperwork on the other end is a little more stringent, and the RCMP use a lot more scrutiny when going through the application for a handgun. I mean, it's pretty strict and stringent for a rifle or a shotgun. It's even more strict and more stringent for a handgun. So they ask way more questions when they call your spouse or your significant other. They spend more time in your background checks, checking for, you know, offenses like we talked about in the other category, and they really go a lot more thorough to make sure that the person they're issuing a handgun license to is qualified to own one. And that's just the way our laws and our rules are set up in Canada. And it's just there for everyone's protection, right? I'm sure we could argue and debate this forever, but that's just the way the laws are in Canada, and that's what we have to work with. So there we go. As far as, you know, once you get approved, what can you own? What can you buy? Well, if you get a non-restricted license, you are allowed to possess and acquire, because that's what it's called. It's called a possession and acquisition license. So you are allowed to possess and acquire ammunition and non-restricted or restricted, or both, depending on which courses you take, firearms. So if you get just your non-restricted, then you are allowed to possess and acquire rifles and shotguns and the ammunition that goes in them in that category. And if you get your restricted, then you're allowed to own and possess rifles, short-barreled rifles, handguns, and the ammunition that goes with them. So it's a very lengthy process. Like I said, it's not something you're going to do overnight. It will not happen in a weekend. You're minimum looking at 3 months before you find out if you can even be approved for such a thing. And then after you get approved and you want to go to the store to buy these things, you have to show that license to the people that work at the store to be able to buy the gun. They have to check your license and verify it before you're allowed to walk out of the store with the gun. So there's a long, set of steps that occur from the time you take the course to the time you buy your first firearm. There's a lot of steps involved. It's not simple. And it is not quick and easy. And the system was designed like that to try and protect people and keep the public safe, because there are obviously individuals in our population that we don't want owning firearms, and there are obviously those people in our population that should not own firearms. Obviously, we don't want somebody with a mental health history of, psychotic episodes and breakdowns, who also maybe has, domestic assault, owning firearms. That would probably not be a good idea. So, nor do we want convicted felons and murderers being allowed to, own firearms. That's just not a very good idea, and I don't know that too many people would agree that that's a safe thing to do. So that's why our laws and that's why our rules are the way they are. I would admit that I don't always agree with them, but I understand that they're there for a reason, and we got to look out for the safety and well-being of everybody. So that's why they are the way they are. But I encourage people. I mean, if you've never owned a firearm and you're interested in it, talk to maybe someone you know. If you have a friend or a family member that owns firearms, talk to them. Ask them if maybe they can take you shooting so you can see if you like it or not. It's not for everybody. Not everyone likes it, but try it out. Maybe you have an aunt or an uncle or a cousin or someone that's into hunting, and you want to learn how to do that. Ask. Maybe they can take you out and you can learn these things. So don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try getting into firearms. Firearms are, they are inanimate objects. They're only, used for a deadly purpose when the person holding them makes that choice. Until that time, rifles and shotguns and handguns, they sit in the safe. They don't come out and hurt anybody, walk around the house. Evil is only done with a firearm when someone chooses to. So I just want to put that out there so that people are trying to understand that people kill people with firearms, but the firearm itself is not the problem. It's the people holding the firearm that make a choice. So let's not believe everything we hear on TV. But there's nothing wrong with owning firearms. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the shooting sports. I encourage people, if you've never done it before, go try it. It's a lot of fun. If you've never gone to a clay shooting competition and you want to try it out, find your local shooting club and see if maybe you can come try it out. if you've never gone to the range with a 22 and tried plinking, if you have a friend that does it, see if they can you can tag along. It's a fun sport, and owning firearms is a lot of fun, and it's a privilege in Canada. I mean, again, that's another video. We could argue about privilege versus right, but the laws are the way they are, and that's that's a video for another time. But the point of this video is try it out. You know, understand that there's a process. Understand that it's lengthy. Understand that, you know, once you get vetted and approved for a license, you know, you're one of the most vetted citizens in the country, because firearms owners go through background checks every single day. And that's just the way the laws in this country work. That's just the way the firearms system is set up with the RCMP. So if you're going to own guns in Canada, you're getting a background check and you're having your name run through RCMP systems every day, whether you like it or not. You don't have a choice. That's the way it is. So be proud of the fact that if you own a firearm, that, you know, you're one of the, you know, you're very well trusted by the government and the RCMP, because they're looking at you every day. So things to think about. Don't be afraid to try something new. The shooting sports are great. I recommend everyone, if you're thinking about it, get out and try it. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, let's not be afraid of everything the TV tells us. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys on the next video.